So welcome to our webinar for people looking at the MSc in Children's Psychological Disorders. So what we're going to do today is that first of all, Alex and I are going to introduce ourselves. Then we'll tell you what to expect on the course, and then we'll answer any questions that you've got about what you're up to, about the course and things like that. Okay. And we've got some questions that have come in already, and so we can answer those. And there's also a Q&A area where you can add things in as well. So, who are we? So my name's Kate. My name's Kate Langley, and I am the director of the MSc. And I'm also I'm a researcher, I'm a developmental psychologist, and I'm really interested in understanding neurodevelopmental conditions. And for me, it's especially looking at ADHD and related difficulties as well. And I'm interested in lots of different areas within that, but trying to understand who might develop these different conditions, who might show different types of behaviour, how that behaviour might look different in different people, and what happens when, especially children with ADHD and other neurodevelopmental conditions grow up as well. And one of the things I do as part of that research is looking at genetic factors. So I'm also a lecturer on the course, and I'm a lecturer on one of the modules in the second semester, Neurodevelopmental Disorders 1, Neurobiology, and in that I talk about some of the genetic factors that we're interested in this. So that's me, and then we have Alex.
Hi, yeah, lovely to meet you all. Good morning. I was a master's student on this course back in 2022, I started. And then when I finished this year, I became a PhD student in the same lab. My thesis is on emerging depressive symptoms and the temperament profiles and executive functioning mechanisms that underlie it. And whoever joins the course, I'm going to meet you all in September.
Brilliant. And Alex is our recent graduate, so she's going to be able to tell you all of the things that it's really like to study on this course and stuff, whilst all the things that they don't let us know. And last week it was brilliant because we had our graduation ceremony, and we got to see Alex crossing the stage in her gown, and all of the others from the 2022-23 cohort of the course. So it's brilliant. I was telling Alex we should have changed her photo for this, and we'd forgotten. But anyway,
it's a really fun gown.
So, what do we have in MSc? What's the MSc in Children's Psychological Disorders about? Well, we think that it's a really unique course, and essentially that what we're interested in is making sure that students have an understanding and the development and the skills and experience of understanding lots of different areas of children's psychological difficulties and so on. So we're interested in sort of making sure that we educate and prepare you for whatever future developmental scientist or practitioner careers you go into. So we're interested in specifically in children and young people and the difficulties that they face. We look at things from a range of different perspectives. So I mentioned about the neurobiology that we had before. We also look at family factors and interactions. We talk about the role of cognition and executive functioning. We look at varying areas from a sort of applied point of view as well. And what we're really interested in is making sure we have this basis of sort of scientific evidence and knowledge, and how that relates to sort of is practically applied in the real world. And in order to do this, we try to have an expert-led teaching. So we have a range of people who are all sort of researchers or practitioners within this area to support the learning on the course. And so really what we want to say, so like I said, essentially what we want is to teach the practitioners, teach the scientists, teach the researchers of the future. And so we want people to have an understanding and by the end of the course to have a sort of ability to understand how to design, conduct and evaluate applied scientific research, and think about how that then gets to be used in practice in practical ways as well. So we look at across a huge range of different difficulties that children have, including neurodevelopmental conditions like ADHD and autism, aggression and conduct problems, anxiety and depression. and thinking about not just individuals with specific diagnosable conditions, but also thinking about the broad spectrum and the dimensionality of these things, which is very much the way in which we look at these things. And thinking about how these problems can be assessed, and also then thinking about, therefore, how they might be, how any sort of support might be provided for those individuals. And in this way, we try to have a sort of a bit of a science practitioner model. So trying to sort of think about these ideas about what is the science and the evidence behind the practice. We have a small course, and so that means that we have lots of sort of small group teaching, and as I mentioned, we also have sort of experts in the different areas leading the teaching. And one of the really great things about this course, I think, is the integration between those practitioners and the university staff as well. So we have a direct contact with and input from educational and clinical psychologists, and these are actually the educational and clinical psychologists who run the doctorate in educational psychology and the doctorate in clinical psychology programs at Cardiff. So you really have an understanding and idea of the types of ways in which they teach, the things that they're interested in, and so on, to move forward for people who are interested in those as future careers. We have within the course, or connected to the course, is our world-class research facilities, and I think it's always easy for us to forget how amazing we have of these facilities, but they're available for people to work on, especially within their dissertations, but also other aspects of the course as well. And so because we work within this sort of research-led or sort of research-supported area, we have active research groups such as the Neurodevelopmental Assessment Unit and the Wales Autism Research Centre, who are actively involved in research. And that means that the students on the course get access to real research studies using children and families with a range of different difficulties. And that means that whether it's in terms of collecting data yourselves or using the wealth of the data that we've got available, which means that we've also got longitudinal data and so on, it means that we can actually have a real understanding of the real life situations in which research is used. Okay, so what does the course look like? The course is split into 3 semesters, so it's a full year course. And in the first semester, which starts at the end of September, we have 4 different modules. So the first module that we have is called Origins of Developmental Psychopathology, and that's understanding about the different factors that might be related to the development of problems in children, difficulties in children. So thinking about family factors and things like life events and so on, and also the role of biological factors, like thinking about sort of the stress system and cortisol and so on. We then have what's probably one of our most popular modules, which is the Introduction to Clinical and Educational Psychology. And this is the module that is led by the clinical and educational psychologists. So the first half of the course of the module is the educational psychologists, who talk to you about the basis of educational psychology practice, how that relates to understanding of child development and so on, and education, and thinking about those sorts of things. And then we move on to the clinical psychologists, who talk to you about their work in those sorts of areas as well. We have a smaller research design and statistics module, and then we also have, in the first semester, we have a child assessment methods module, which is a real sort of hands-on practical way of looking at things. And we'll give you a couple of examples of those sorts of things in a minute. And so second semester, we have these 2 neurodevelopmental conditions modules. The first, as I mentioned, is the one I teach on, which is called neurobiology, and it looks at the role of things like imaging and brain structures and so on, and also genetics in their relationship to neurodevelopmental conditions. And then we have the cognition and emotion module, which looks at the different ways in which cognition and stress and emotions and so on are related to these different conditions. And then in the second semester, we again have these smaller modules, which are about research design and statistics, and then the child assessment module methods. And then finally, we have in the third semester, you concentrate on your dissertation. Although I'll talk to you a bit about how we start the dissertation as early as possible. So as I mentioned, across both semesters, we have these child assessment methods modules. And essentially the way in which they are done is sort of hands-on sort of workshops over each day. So we have a range of different areas. And essentially what happens is that you have a bit of a lecture, a bit of a talk in the morning, giving you the sort of theoretical basis and the understanding of these things. And then in the afternoon, you get a practical go at having a go at these things. So for example, I do one and they cover a range of things and sort of expert led in that kind of way. So for example, I do one in the first semester looking at how psychiatric interviews and assessments are undertaken. We have things on observational coding, looking at child temperament and parent-child interaction. The educational psychologists give some, it's not down there, but give workshops looking at CoMoira, which is the framework and the method they use within their practice. And we also have the clinical psychologists giving us some introduction sessions to cognitive behaviour therapy. We have such a broad range of different things. In addition to these sorts of factors, we also then have workshops on developmental imaging and EEG and FNIRS. Also thinking about eye tracking and how that might be related to understanding about where children look and the functioning that the children have in understanding different things such as emotions. And then also Catherine Jones does a workshop looking at the assessment of autism spectrum conditions. And there's more things that we do. But that gives you a sort of hands-on sort of start of understanding the ways in which practitioners move through things. And now Alex is going to tell you all about one of our workshops, which it leads into our group research project.
So the first workshop that we do is on FMSS, which is an assessment of parental expressed emotion. So what it is it's we ask the parent to speak freely about their child for 5 minutes, and then we record it. And what you learn in that workshop is how to code that recording on negativity, warmth, positive comments, negative comments. It's evidence-based, and it's part of the, as Kate said, the child assessment methods module. It gives you, in the afternoon, you have practical experience coding, and it is led by a brilliant clinical psychologist. It was one of my favorite workshops, and it is because we use that knowledge that we learned on that workshop to do a group research project. In that group research project, you're given 50 videos of FMSS, so of parents speaking about their children, and then you all code them together in little groups. And once you have that data, then you can create your own hypotheses and questions, and then you write it into a report, and then you present that research as well at the end of the semester. It was one of our favorite group projects because it's the first one where we had to work all together, and it's a great way to meet everyone from your course from week 3, I think, because that's when we do it, week 2 or week 3. And it's a great way to use real research data and kind of first start thinking about hypotheses and different research that you can do with that data. And it's very rich data as well. So they give you lots of other additional variables that you can use for that data.
Great, thanks, Alex. Yeah, so that's an example of the types of assessments we do and how the practical elements of the course integrate into that. And we have a real range of very different assessments to try and look at things in different ways and be able to make sure that you get different experiences and different ways in which people do it. So we have a combination of sort of coursework and exams, and those might be sort of traditional essays, but they're also sort of case reports and qualitative assignments for the education and clinical psychology module, practical reports, so the FMSS, the 5-minute speech sample FMSS group research project in the first semester, and then in the second semester with a different group, you then write your own draft research grant proposal, which is an excellent way to get your own ideas into things and to sort of think about how people might do things as well. And the other thing that makes up a big part of the assessment and so on of all masters, but including this one, is thinking about the dissertation. that's the sort of hands-on practical way of understanding and moving throughout the whole of a research project from beginning to end. So as we mentioned, the people who teach on this course are all really experienced and really sort of knowledgeable about the areas that they're interested in, and the sort of knowledge and passion of our teaching staff is something that is repeatedly picked up in our feedback and noted. All of the people who teach on this course are really at the cutting edge, at the sort of pinnacle of their research or professional practice careers, and so therefore they provide a really good insight into the way in which those worlds work. We look at across a range of different difficulties that children had, looking at the antecedents, the things that come before that might precede them, the risks for developing those difficulties, and the outcomes for those things, as well as thinking about assessments and some information about interventions for that might have and support for such difficulties. And these are things that as I mentioned, that our graduates have talked about a lot. And I'm not going to read out these quotes because you're perfectly capable of reading yourselves. But you can see that they talk about how the teaching staff are really sort of supportive and passionate about what they're talking about. So one of the major parts in this MSc, or all MScs, is thinking about the dissertation. A dissertation is a fantastic experience, a fantastic way to get all the information that you to have an experience of understanding about the way in which research and applied research takes place. Because we're affiliated with lots of different research groups, we can get really excellent MSc projects for people to do. So thinking about the different things that you might be able to do, you can either sort of use large, rich databases that are already there, which means you get really in-depth, large, longitudinal data on these things, which you can't get if you go off and collect all of the data yourself. And it also means you can do things like think about the underlying mechanisms of different difficulties, thinking about that beyond just an individual difficulty, but how different transdiagnostic or different factors might come together. Thinking about how different screening factors and interventions might work, and testing novel theories using experimental data. And what we want to do there is, a dissertation is a personal project, and so therefore you end up having a unique experience. But the skills that can be established might be sort of thinking about understanding more about qualitative or quantitative analysis, having a practice of administering and analysing those sorts of qualitative interviews, experience in observational coding of things and how that helps us understand the behaviours of different individuals, or perhaps going into schools and having experience of testing in schools. And one of the things about our dissertations that differs from other MScs is that most other MScs start based in the summer in the third semester. What we do with our dissertation projects is start them right at the beginning, right in the October. And there's a couple of reasons to do that. So what it means is that actually you can have real meaty projects that you develop and understand across the whole year, rather than just being in the summer months. The other thing is that actually, if you're trying to do things like collect data, especially if you're going into schools, or especially if you're interested in looking things over a little bit of a period of time, it's not possible to do that in the summer. So by moving it forward and starting early off, we have the opportunity for a broader range of different projects that people can have. And it also means that you just get a better understanding and a better experience, and it's a sort of more stable kind of movement through the project, rather than there being nothing, and then everything within the summer months. Yeah, and so Alex is going to give you some examples of some of the different stations that we've had recently.
Sorry, it froze for a second. So yeah, these are some examples of dissertation titles that we offer. The first one's about multisensory environments in children with emotional and behavioral difficulties. This one looks at sensory rooms and how children use them, and how depending on their use, their feelings change, their emotional behavioral difficulties present, and with the aim of creating the most effective use of sensory rooms in schools, in clinical settings, or at home. It's a really great research project. The next one is also understanding risk factors for disordered eating behaviors in children. This is a very rich dissertation because it has lots of different data points. So it uses EEG, it uses cognitive measures and behavioral measures, and it's all to see the mechanisms that present as risk factors for different types of eating behaviors that are seen in very early on in children. The next one is the one that I did, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about soon, and it's the pilot feasibility study of a new parent-focused intervention in motor coach. This dissertation project is really great because you really get to see behind the scenes of how new interventions are developed and what a feasibility study entails, and you also get to do interviews with parents that I'm going to talk more about soon. The next one is the importance of parent-child play in children with emotional behavioral problems. I'm going to talk more about that soon as well. And it's an example of a dissertation that is based on a large data set that has been already collected, but it's very rich and you can get a lot of analysis out of, and it's I'm going to talk a little bit more about it soon. The next one is the impact of domestic violence on children's internalizing and externalizing behaviors. This is based on the Millennium Cohort study, and it looks at how, and it's again longitudinal data that has been collected over many years with a large sample, and looks at how protective factors such as siblings can help the effects of domestic violence on children's internalizing and externalizing behaviors later on. And then we also have a study that compares children's central nervous system and automatic nervous system activity in response to novelty. This is also a really great one because you get to use a lot of neuroimaging data, such as FNIRS data and EEG data. And it's very technical. It's very interesting if you're if your interests lie more on neurobiology, and it's brilliant. So this is the project that I did, and we tested the feasibility and effectiveness of the intervention named a motor coach, and it was developed to help and it's a parent-based intervention that was aimed to help parents reflect more on their own emotions and their children's emotions. We mainly tested this intervention on parents that had children that had emotional difficulties, either with recognizing the emotions or processing their own emotions. And what we did pre and post intervention interviews where we went through loads of questionnaires with the parents that were that measured parental mental health, children's emotional development, parent-child interactions. And we did that 2 weeks before the intervention, 2 weeks after, so we could compare how effective the intervention was immediately after the parents had participated in them. And then we also did semi-structured and qualitative interviews after, where we asked parents about what they thought about the intervention, what they thought worked better, what they thought could be implemented to make it work even better in the future. So it was a great mix of qualitative and quantitative data. And we found a post-intervention decrease in child emotional difficulties, parental distress, and dysfunction of parent-child interactions, and an increase in parental sense of competence and positive well-being.
Great.
And then we also, this is the example of a dissertation project that uses a large data set of longitudinal data, and it was about the importance of pretend play and buffering the effects of stressful life events on child mental health. So students that did this project really loved it because they watched lots of videos of children playing together and interacting, which was really lovely. And they coded it based on pretend play behaviors. And then they looked at how, previously acquired measures of stressful life events and combined with the peer play behaviors were associated with different health outcomes. And they found that the pretend play mediated that relationship between stressful life events and child mental health, which is really brilliant. So from these dissertation projects, you work on really important data and really interesting and rich data, and it's really great to see what findings you can get and how impactful those findings could be in future research and future interventions and outcomes.
Great. So we've talked a bit about the course and all the things that we do. And now I just wanted to tell you, I mean, we know this course is good. We believe this course is good, but one of the things that we see every year is how people move forward and move into different careers, and this course really seems to help and support them moving forward. And like I said, we went to graduation last week, which was brilliant because you get to find out how everyone's doing and talk to them and find out about the fact that they've, you know, just 1 year out of doing their MSc have got onto a clinical psychology course, and others getting onto educational psychology courses and things like that. So it's fantastic to see how people are doing. And there are a range of different places that people go. So as we said, we have had people go directly from the course into the DClin psych or the DEd psych. There's lots of people. There's people who go on to be PhD students, and Alex is a good example of one of those. People also have roles that are supporting them to move forward into often those DClin or DEd courses. So thinking about educational mental health practitioners, psychology assistants, both clinical psychology assistants and educational psychology assistants, and other people going into sort of the broader third sector, thinking about being charity funding advisors and other things like that. So it's a real range of different things that people have. They actually get an opportunity, but this course does really seem to have people who go on to really great things, and we flatter ourselves that a little bit about it is because of how well we sort of teach the teaching and the experiences that they get on this course. And actually what we find is that people find that one of the really good things about this course is thinking about helping them to think about what the careers of educational psychology, clinical psychology and research psychology sort of look like, and what they actually will move, what they actually want to do moving forward. We get quite a lot of people who say, I might like to do clinical, I might like to do educational, I'm not sure which, and actually this has helped me to make up my mind. Or I thought I was going to do clinical, and now I see in educational psychology, I can see that that's actually something that's much more preferable. And the one I really like is when people say, well, I thought I wanted to be a practitioner, but now I see the value of research and I want to go on and have a research career. So we do sort of see that people move forward and so on. So we're really proud of those sorts of things. The other thing that we have is thinking about the fact that this the course is based within the Cardiff University School of Psychology, and this Cardiff University School of Psychology is an excellent place to be. It's one of the top 10 universities for psychology, and has a real really interesting and great way of working about it. We're excellent at research. We're rated within the top 5 of in research excellence, and we have a close-knit community of staff and students. And being on an MSc course and being part of the university allows you to be part of that community and to do things. I really think that it's quite a close-knit sort of course, but also you've got the broader options. So, for example, we have colloquium talks that happen in different on a Friday that students are invited to attend, where experts come to talk about their research from around the world. So the example here being Mirko, who actually was a PhD student here and now works at Stanford University, looking at sort of the different ways in which you might characterize autistic factors and how that can help us to understand and support people. We also have a lot of other sort of one-off events. So I've just picked a couple that have happened within the last month or so that also our students are invited to take part in. So, for example, we had an infant-parent interaction research on interactions between parents and children, infants and parents, and a showcase of the different research that was there, which was brilliant because it had information about research that's going on, and then also how that research is used by practitioners in the local community and so on. And that was really, really interesting, with sort of people from Barnardo's and the family services and a huge range of practitioners in different CAMs and so on. And also last week, the educational psychology section had their annual conference, and our students were invited to go to that and see the sort of work that's being done in that as well. So there's lots of opportunities beyond the MSc that people can have. I think now Alex is going to tell you all about our the university and what it's like for students.
So we all know that the university is a Russell Group university and that it's been voted really preferable in the University of Wales guide. But there's also really great opportunities that the university offers outside of research and teaching. So for example, everyone at the university can do Languages for All programs, which are just once a week or twice a week, depending on how often you sign up, lessons of different language courses. So I did Spanish and I really loved it. And it's a great way to kind of learn something outside of your course as well and meet people from different courses. And it's just a great opportunity to get free language courses that are always valuable. They also offer lots of study skills support services and sessions. So there is a math support service once a week that you can go to if you're really struggling. And there's also different writing retreats and different support services, especially towards the student union. So you always feel supported in whatever area you're struggling. There's also Student Futures Career Service that support you during and after you study. So if you are unsure about what career options you have, or if you're unsure whether the career path that you're going towards is the right one, they help guide you and advise you. And there's also an overwhelming amount of societies and volunteering that you can take a part of. And whether that's to do with a sport or to do with an art or to do with just your passion, your volunteering passion. And I would greatly recommend going to the induction week fairs where you can meet everyone and see what different options there are. And also we love our student union. It was voted second best in the UK. It's always been refurbished and always new things are being added towards it. And it's open 24 hours a day with study facilities and shops and bars. It's a great way to focus, but it's also a great way to relax and enjoy some time with your friends. So yeah.
I can't remember if you're doing this or me, Alex. Is it me?
Right.
So the other thing is that Cardiff. Cardiff is also a fantastic city. Cardiff is it's a small capital city. So what that means is that it gets all the benefits of being a capital city, but it also has all of the benefits of not being too big and sprawling and having a nice close experience and so on. There's an awful lot of cultural activities. We've got all of the Wells Millennium Centre, which has lots of sort of shows and so on. We also have the Principality Stadium with lots of sporting events and music events and things like that. There's quite a lot of shopping. Cardiff has a huge number of beautiful parks that you can go to, which is great. And the university is almost in the city centre, so it's really close to everything, and you know, you're a part of the heart of it when you're at the university. It's also because it's reasonably small, it's very walkable or cyclable, and actually one of the advantages of Cardiff is they're actually pretty darn flat, so actually that means that it's not too much of a hassle to cycle around and things. Cardiff is really close to amazing countryside, so there's beaches and the mountains and so on just down the road. So if you want to escape the city for a bit, there's loads and loads of different places that you can go really quickly and that give you all those sorts of different opportunities. And one of the advantages of Cardiff as well is that they sort of that actually it's a reasonably cheap place to live from a student point of view. And so this quote I've got just sort of says, "The cost of living is low, but the quality of life is high." And I got that from somewhere. It's not me making it up. Okay. There's also sort of other benefits of living studying in Cardiff and studying on this course as well. And so this is sort of what our graduates have sort of said to us, that, you know, Cardiff is a great city and it's a safe environment. and it's really good to sort of work in and live in things. Also about the opportunities that you can have, lots of different opportunities like Alex was mentioning about sort of different volunteering or other opportunities. This is a small course. We have about sort of 27 to 30 kind of students on the course. So that means actually it's a really tight-knit sort of community and cohort. And so people are always telling me how, in fact, I was just at graduation, someone was telling me about how one of their course mates was going to be their bridesmaid next month. So there's sort of a fantastic experience of meeting people and who've got similar interests and so on with you, and working together in those sort of group and other projects to sort of try to get that sort of cohesiveness and cohort as well. And then also thinking about the different work that you have and the experiences that you have on the course and stuff like that. So hopefully Alex and I are giving you a bit of some understanding and some information about the course and thinking about that, and thinking about all of the different ways in which we work and the things that we think are brilliant about the course and so on. And now we can have some questions. Alex, I can see that there's already some questions in the Q&A thing. Would you mind opening them up and reading them out? Because if I try and do it, then it's going to mess up the recording on the screen, I think.
Of course. So the first question is there still spaces available on this course as I have not applied yet? I have an undergraduate degree.
Sorry, yeah.
In criminology and criminal youth justice. Would this be a qualification to consider?
So there is still, do apply. There's still some opportunities available. In terms of your previous degree, basically what we're looking for is to make sure people have had a good background in, like, basically what we want is we don't want to put people in a position where they're trying to do things that they've never seen before, and it's really, really hard. So what we try to do is make sure that people have had a background in psychology, especially thinking about psychological research and some sort of statistical skills, and also thinking about having some experience of understanding about child developmental psychology and so on. So what we do is we look specifically at people's modules from the transcripts and things like that they send us, and we'll have a look to see exactly which measures are relevant and so on, which courses are relevant. Hopefully that answers your question. What's the next one?
The next one said, I start an application this year, but I won't be ready by September 2024. So when will applications for 2025-26 start, and what scholarships are available? Also, is it possible for me to work as an assistant lecturer or researcher while I complete this master's?
So let's go with the first question first. So essentially, applications for the next year will start in sort of September, October sort of time, and you should be able to apply then. The student union, or through the university, there are some scholarships that you can apply for, and if you just Google type in Cardiff University, so on the internet, on the Cardiff University site, if you just look for postgraduate taught scholarships, then that will come up with sort of information on those. The next question was, the next bit of the question was, can you work as a research assistant as part of the course? Is that right?
Assistant lecturer or researcher.
So so we don't really have teaching opportunities within the course for students to study on this, because it's a sort of full-time taught master's program. Next one, Alex.
Are there any guidance with internships regarding the course? I think that's quite similar to
guidance with internships. So is that thinking about the dissertations? So for the dissertations, you get support on thinking about how you might apply for them and the different choices that you have. Essentially what happens is we have a really long list, and everyone puts in 5 options that they'd be happy with, and we then have to do an awful lot of working out to make sure everyone gets things that they're happy with.
The next one is, will there be any opportunities for placements within the course?
So there aren't opportunities for placements within the course. As I said, it's a full-time course across the whole year, but the dissertations are essentially like a placement in many cases. So you can have experience that you include in that kind of a way.
How soon would a DBS have to be sorted? Would this have to be arranged before the course starts in September?
So that's a good question. So we do need a DBS is a or disclosure barring service, which sounds lovely, doesn't it? So it's essentially a check that of criminal record and so on. And we have that because you were working with you may have been working with children and families, and also because the centre that we're based in has lots of research in families and children around. What happens is that once you start the course, we then give you the application form and it goes through. We want it as soon as possible, but it does take a little while to get sorted out. But no, you don't need it in advance.
We have another question about the DBS, and it's if it's done separately or through the School of Psychology.
So it's done through the School of Psychology. But don't worry, it's all sorted. And even I know that sometimes you've got ones before, you have to have a new one for every different organisation that you do things for. So, but that's okay, we'll sort it. Or with you, we'll sort it.
The next one says, apologies, I missed the start. Are there opportunities of work experience with the course or to link in with career opportunities following the course? And
So,
is the course taught on certain days or across the week?
okay, so let's take the first things first. So the first bit is thinking about, so as I said, there aren't opportunities for additional internships beyond the course. You get experience by being in your dissertation that covers quite a lot of those sorts of things. And the other thing is that, as Alex mentioned, there are lots of volunteering opportunities within the university that you can do as part of that. So the second part of the question was about the timetable.
Yeah, if it's taught on, if the master's course is taught on certain days or across a week.
So this is a question we often get because people are interested in things about having other sort of work experience and other experiences as well. Our final timetables aren't completed yet, and I can't give any promises around what things look like. What I can tell you is what our sort of aims are, and also what things look like in this year. So basically what we aim to do is we try to make sure that when you come in, you have on the days that you come in, you're coming in for a few things rather than just coming in for an hour and then going back again. And that's for two reasons. First of all, because we know that other people might have other responsibilities that they need to work around and so on. But also, secondly, that we know that some people are living outside of Cardiff, and actually the effort for sort of coming in and so on it makes it much better. It makes much more sense if we can put the different content factors together. This is a full-time course. This is the official line, right? This is a full-time course, and that means that it counts as a 40-hour-a-week course. So therefore, you can see that in addition to the sort of contact hours, you also have independent study. We talked about your group projects, and actually, you need to get together with your group to do those sorts of things and to get that going. And also with the dissertation as well, you sort of will have meetings with your supervisors and things to do as part of that. That being said, we know that people often do take up other opportunities at the same time. So we might have so what we try to do is stack things together. So usually what we generally have is that since this course has started, and I fingers crossed think it's going to be exactly the same this year, is that Wednesday has always been completely free. We're always in Mondays and Friday mornings at least, and some things in the afternoons. The workshops that I mentioned are on Tuesday, or have been on Tuesdays, and they happen every other week. And on a Thursday, every other weekish, there's something to do. So there is time free within the timetable, and just exactly how it looks and exactly what it's going to look like is still needs to be slightly sorted out. Okay, Alex, what's the next one?
When does this course start?
The induction week starts on the 23rd of September, and then teaching proper starts the week later on the 30th of September. So according to the induction timetable, which again is still being finalised and so on, it looks like you're going to be in on that 23rd of September.
We have another question about the DBS, and it's Hi, thanks for all the info on the course. As I am an international student, could I ask about the DBS check on my offer and whether this will differ for international students? As in, do I have to do similar check back home? Thank you so much.
So essentially, so don't worry, we've had lots of international students over the years and who have managed to get DBSs, and so there are systems in which that works. Essentially, what they can take a little longer because the system checks that there aren't any things in your home country or the different countries that you've lived in. And that's the same if anyone is UK based but has been living abroad as well. And so it can take a little bit longer, but don't worry, there's systems to work that out, and it will all be there's processes that can be followed.
The next one is, I did art studio in my undergraduate degree. I saw that SPSS is used within the course. Will it be easy to transition to that?
So yes, so SPSS is used in the course, and that's why we'd sort of mention it within our application system. We have quite a few people who have learned different methods within their previous degrees, including RStudio and JASP and things like that. You can transfer we also there's not a so within our research methods statistics, it's more about understanding research methods and also about the application of statistics or the understanding of statistics rather than necessarily working through statistical things. So where statistics is used, for example, in the dissertation or in the group projects, actually quite often there's people to sort of support you, or actually if you wanted to run things in RStudio and we're happy to do that, then that's possible as well. So it's reasonably flexible.
I have a master's in special education needs and a UKNCFE Level 3 certificate in child psychology. Will that suffice as a qualification for this course?
So we try to look at a broad range of different things. And what we would do is look individually at the different modules that you've had and so on. So it's difficult for me to say definitively based on what you've just said there and what that is without looking at it more in more detail. But that certainly isn't. You haven't said something that makes me think, oh, absolutely not. Okay.
And we have another question about part-time job offers. And it's, are there any part-time jobs available in the department during the course or after?
So there aren't any official jobs that are connected with the course or anything like that. However, there are roles that come up across the university that people could apply for. And certainly there's quite a few people who have done their course and then ended up doing posts afterwards. But it's more on an individual basis and what happens to come up rather than there being any system that's connected to the course.
Yeah, I know some people were paid after their dissertation to continue coding or stuff like that, but it's very individual based, isn't it? Like situational based.
Yeah.
The next one is, how many working hours per week?
So it's a full-time course. So according to the guidance, it's a 40-hour week. In terms of contact hours, I have to work it out. So it's about 15 contact hours a week, but there might be some weeks that it's a little more and some weeks that it's a little less, because some things that aren't every single week, we have them every other week and so on.
The next one is, will we be qualified to conduct CBT after this course?
No, you wouldn't be qualified to conduct CBT after this. It's an introduction to CBT that you have, but it does give you an understanding and sort of a start to be able to do that. To get qualified within CBT, we have actually within the university got a CBT certificate and diploma course, and that's a year-long course on its own. So it's much more in depth than you could do as part of a broader course like this, but it does give you a taster.
Is the Cardiff alumni discount applicable for this master's course still?
Yes, it is.
Um, Another DBS check question. I have been in Africa and never done one. Can it be done for me too?
Yes. Yeah, so the same thing. So there are systems that it is a slightly more, slightly more, takes a little bit longer and so on, but that shouldn't, so far as I'm aware, be an issue.
How much freedom is given with the research project, and how soon will we have to decide on the title?
So in terms of the timing, so what happens is that in the first week of the course, you'll be given this booklet that I mentioned that has the list of all of the different options and all of the different titles that you can have. And then once that's done, you in week 3, I think it is, you submit your 5 different options. And then quite quickly we work out which ones. So in order to do that, we have a sort of, we call it a meet and greet session where the supervisors and the students come together, so you can find out more about what is exactly involved in the projects and things like that. So you choose. So you should know your project by about week 3, week 4, and then what happens is that to sort of move you forward and make sure that you're engaging with the project and that your supervisor's engaging and that it's moving forward and so on, we have just after Christmas you put in a very brief proposal form about what you're going to do in your dissertation, and then in about sort of Easter time after the second semester, or at the end of the second semester, you then put in your introduction and method sections for your dissertation. So you can see it sort of continues on. In terms of freedom to do freedom within the dissertations, you don't have to complete freedom. I know some courses you can just create a title for yourselves and suggest that. We don't have that, and the reason for that is because actually we think it's really important to do high quality research that actually uses is able to be of a sort of publishable sort of standard. And it's much better to have a framework where you're working with a research team that allows you to do that, rather than having it all on you and making up a title on your own, which is likely to be less able to do that. In addition to that, but so within it, it depends a little bit on the different projects that you're doing, but there is obviously some scope for thinking about those questions and working out those questions and directing the research that you want in the way that you would like. So, for example, I have had a project this year, or have a project this year, where the students are going out to go and work with a charity to try and understand if we can learn how to best get the understanding and opinions of children with disabilities, to understand whether or not they are how different how different clubs and things that they go to are benefiting them. And within that was the idea that we had, and working with the charity wanted to evaluate their services. And we thought that observational measures might be a good way to go forward, but the students had very much a choice about what types of behaviour they thought would be relevant to both look at, and also as the outcomes that they're interested in seeing changing over time, thinking about the methodology that they developed for that, and so on. So you can see there's quite a lot of scope within the project to sort of work out what you might want to do, and it can go like that.
And the last question is, will we be taught the basics of SPSS in this course?
So if you need to be taught the basics of SPSS, we can get you help to do that. It's not something that will be, there's no sort of basics of SPSS module or anything like that, because lots of people have already experienced either that or similar programs before. But if people have got needs like that, we can absolutely support them. As Alex said, there's sort of maths drop-ins that you could have, which could cover that, or we can think about how that works within working with your particular dissertation supervisor or something.
And
Brilliant.
I think I've answered, yeah, I think I've read all of them.
Fantastic. Well, there's loads of questions, and please feel free to stick up another one if you didn't get a chance, or you want to ask another question now. But otherwise, I'm going to stop. So if you do want to have more information, you can always, if you've got questions after the time, please do email our email address down there, like MSc Child Disorder at cardiff.co.uk, or please feel free to contact us and look at our website and things like that. I'm just going to stop the share, and hopefully that's everything. So does that all sound all right? I think that was all the questions, and I think we've got there. So thank you all very much for attending. It's been really great being able to answer your questions and tell you a bit more about the course. And we really are really passionate about this course and really want to welcome you to come and see us when at the end of September. So we look forward to seeing you, as many of you as possible, and do feel free to ask us any questions and give us a shout if you've got any questions. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll stop the recording now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.